Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission here is pretty simple. Take complex stuff, unpack it, and give you the shortcut to, well, really knowing what's going on. Today we're tackling something huge, a proposed fix for, let's face it, a global education system that feels pretty broken in places. We're really at a critical point, aren't we? The numbers, they're just staggering. Tuition costs, student debt, it's crushing. And globally, the old ways just can't keep up. We need to reskill, 3 billion people by 2030, according to the World Economic Forum, the traditional model. Big campuses, big upfront costs. It just wasn't built for that kind of scale.
Exactly. It's this fundamental clash between what's economically feasible for institutions and what society actually needs. Our source material today looks at EON Reality's ImpactShare, and it's positioned as a really radical rethink. They're not just talking about fancy AI or XR tech, that's part of it. They're aiming to change the whole financial structure. The idea is to shift education from this massive expense into something that could actually be self-funding, like infrastructure.
Okay. Self-funding infrastructure. That's the hook. That's what we need to dig into today. Specifically, this zero-risk 1920 financing thing they talk about. What is it? How does it supposedly get rid of that debt risk? And maybe the biggest question, how can one formula possibly work everywhere? From a $50,000 U.S. tuition down to maybe $1,500 somewhere in Africa. That's the core mission for us.
Yeah, and to really get why it's potentially so innovative, you have to understand the problem they're targeting first. The background is, well, it's grim. Research shows U.S. tuition costs have jumped something like 400% since 1980. And that hits students hard. Average debt loads are, $30,000, maybe up to $75,000. It's huge. Institutions, meanwhile, are often locked into these massive capital spending cycles for buildings and labs. It just drives costs up further.
And the result?
The result is access. Fewer than 10% of people worldwide can actually afford a traditional degree right now. It's an elite system, basically.
Right. So that's the cycle. The debt, the cost, the lack of access that ImpactShare is designed to break. But what gives EON the basis to make such a bold financial promise? Underwriting risk like that, it's not just a concept, right? They have history here.
That's crucial. This isn't coming out of nowhere. The sources point to EON's 25-plus years working in XR and AI for learning. They mention a library of 36 million immersive assets, deployments already happening in over 80 countries, so there's a track record. Proven scale, as you say.
Okay, so they're leveraging existing tech and experience.
Exactly, and that foundation matters because this whole financing model hinges on the performance of their technology actually delivering results. We're talking about tools designed to bypass the old bottlenecks, things like their intelligent virtual campus platform. And this Course Genius AI, it uses those millions of assets to apparently generate or update over 9,000 different academic programs quite rapidly, tailored to local job needs too.
Okay, hang on. Course Genius, that's interesting. It's not just finding existing courses, it's generating them using these assets. How does that speed things up compared to, the months or years it usually takes to develop a new program?
Well, it's about speed and customization, really. Traditional courses are often standardized, prepackaged. Course Genius AI, according to the documents, can quickly put together the right XR labs, the AI simulations, the relevant content into a whole program. You combine that with their brainy AI mentors, which offer personalized student support at scale, and the learning itself is just different. It means institutions could potentially launch new, in-demand programs in weeks. That speed is fundamental to the financial side working.
Got it. So the text performance enables the financial model, which brings us to this key metric they use, KTE, knowledge transfer efficiency. What exactly is KTE, and why is the level EON claims so, disruptive?
KTE is basically a scientific way to measure how effectively and quickly someone learns something and can actually apply it. Think time to mastery. The sources state that traditional methods, lectures, textbooks, usually achieve a KTE effectiveness somewhere between 0.45 and 0.65.
Meaning maybe half to two-thirds retention.
Pretty much. You might struggle to really master the material, but the claim is that EON's immersive, AI-driven approach consistently hits KTE scores of 0.85 to 0.90.
Wow, okay, that's a big jump from maybe 50% mastery to nearly 90%.
That's the claim, and that jump in learning outcome, that's the technological confidence that lets EON take on the financial risk. They're essentially betting on their system's effectiveness.
Okay, now let's really unpack it. The tech performance supposedly backs up the financial gamble. Let's break down this 1920 framework piece by piece. How does it work?
Right. Step one is designed to be a really low barrier, the 1% upfront license fee. An institution pays just 1% of its standard annual tuition per student to activate the entire platform, the virtual campus, the AI tools, everything. The example they use is quite clear. A U.S. university charging $50,000 tuition would pay only $500 per student.
For access to what they value as a $5,000 platform.
Exactly. So instantly, you're shifting away from needing millions in capital expenditure for infrastructure. It becomes a small, manageable operating cost tied to enrollment.
Okay, $500 for $5,000 worth of advanced tech platform access, that alone is pretty compelling. But then comes part two, the bit that really flips the script on educational finance, the 9% EON finance credit.
So EON itself provides the remaining value in that U.S. example. It's the other $4,500 is what they call an EmpactShare credit.
Now, the source material is really emphatic here. It says this is not a loan. There's no traditional debt created for the university. But how does that actually work? What stops it from becoming a debt if the university, say, makes a profit one year but not the next? What's the mechanism?
That's the absolute core of it. It's described as a zero-interest, non-recourse facility. Non-recourse is the key term. It means EON is underwriting the performance based on their tech. They believe that high KTE score virtually guarantees the program will succeed and generate revenue. If, for whatever reason, a program launched this way doesn't bring in new verified revenue for the university, EON absorbs that $4,500 loss per student.
They lose the value of the credit they extended?
Correct. They've essentially turned their technology platform into a capital asset that they are putting at risk, not the university.
Okay, so the university's only upfront risk is that initial 1%.
Precisely, which then leads to the final part, step 3. The 20% shared success distribution. This only kicks in if the program is successful, meaning it generates new enrollment and verified profit. If it does, that profit is automatically split. 80% goes to the university, 20% goes back to EON. They mention using secure systems like Stripe Connect for this.
Win-win if it works.
Yeah.
University keeps the lion's share of new revenue, EON recoups its investment and makes a profit. And if the program doesn't generate profit,
then the university earns nothing beyond that initial 1% fee. The $4,500 credit is effectively forgiven because it was tied to performance that didn't materialize.
that fundamentally changes the risk calculation for launching new programs, doesn't it? Especially combined with the speed you said, 30 days to deploy. That's incredibly fast.
Yeah, 30 days from activation to potentially generating revenue. And they also talk about annual independence cycles. Meaning each academic year stands alone financially. If year 1 is successful and EON gets its 20%, fine. If year 2 sees enrollment drop and there's no profit, the university doesn't owe anything for year 2, and there's no carryover debt from year 1's credit, it resets. Zero accumulated liability.
That alignment of interests seems key. EO only makes money if the university makes money using their platform. But how does this scale? That $50,000 U.S. example makes sense, but how does the same 1-9-20 structure work in, say, India or parts of Africa where tuition might be vastly lower?
That's actually one of the most interesting aspects. The formula itself, the 1% and 9%, the 20% split stays the same. It's proportionally adaptive. So the absolute dollar amounts change, but the risk structure and the ratios hold. Let's use the data contrast they provide. High-value U.S. market, $50,000 tuition. That means a $500 upfront cost. 1%. If successful, the university might net around $4,000 profit, part of their 80% share. Now, compare that to a high-impact market, say in Africa, with $1,500 tuition.
Okay.
The upfront cost, 1%, drops to just $15. $15.
Wow.
If successful, the university might net around $120 profit per student. The profit amount is smaller in absolute terms, obviously, but the zero-risk entry point is maintained. It makes accessing this advanced platform feasible even in very low-income contexts. That's how they pitch the global scalability. Democratizing access through an incredibly low initial bar.
That $15 or, say, $30 entry cost in India, like the source mentions, that's where the social impact angle really hits home, isn't it? You still get the financial benefits for the institution, like that 800% ROI calculation for the U.S. university gaining $4K on a $500 investment, but you also get this massive potential for inclusion.
Exactly. And this model seems designed to offer clear wins for different stakeholders, which is useful for you, the listener, thinking about practical application. For university CFOs, the big appeal is eliminating those huge upfront capital expenditures, sometimes $2 million to $50 million for new facilities or tech. It converts that fixed cost into a variable one tied directly to performance. Much easier to manage.
Okay, CFOs get budget relief and predictability. What about students? Beyond the obvious potential cost reduction, maybe paying $5 instead of $50 for a similar outcome, the source also mentions globally verified blockchain credentials. Why is that specifically important now?
Well, think of it as the digital proof of that high KTE score we talked about. Blockchain credentials offer instant, secure, verifiable proof of skills and competencies. You can't easily fake them. This lets graduates bypass the sometimes slow, clunky process of getting traditional transcripts validated. They can instantly show a global employer, I have mastered these specific skills, linking learning directly to job readiness. It's about immediate, trusted proof.
Makes sense. Faster path to proving value in the job market.
And then for governments, the appeal is achieving national education or reskilling goals, hitting things like UN Sustainable Development Goal 4 for quality education without massive new public spending. Because the investment is inherently linked to measurable outcomes, the KTE scores, and ultimately employment rates driven by those verified skills.
So, pulling it all together, the big picture claim for ImpactShare is that it removes the capital hurdles and the debt risk that have traditionally hampered education expansion. And critically, it forces the tech provider, EON, to have skin in the game. Their success is directly tied to the university's success.
Right. It's an alignment of incentives. Which naturally leads to the question of, well, what's next? What's the long-term vision here? The source material doesn't stop at individual campuses. It talks about creating interconnected regional networks, suggesting governments could use this model to build out national skills infrastructure. The ultimate endpoint described is a global education grid, positioning knowledge and skills development as essentially the fourth vital infrastructure for society, right alongside energy, transport, and data connectivity.
A global education grid. That's a pretty profound idea, shifting how we think about distributing intellectual capital entirely. And maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to consider. If this model or something like it takes hold, if education becomes truly performance-linked, if the value is proven by scientific metrics like KTE backing both the financing and the credential, how does that change how we perceive the value of a degree itself? Does the focus shift entirely away from the prestige of the institution name and onto the provable, verifiable competence of the individual graduate? Something to think about.